Okay, perfect. So, welcome everyone to the cultural workshops for the month of November. So, today is class number 2, and we're going to be looking at toponymies. Okay, so let me share my screen, and you can let me know um, if you see my screen. Can everyone see it?
Yes.
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, thank you very much. And so just some housekeeping items because the setup is a little bit different. It's a little harder for me to see the chat. So I invite you to turn on your microphone. Don't feel bad about interrupting me because I might not be able to see your question in the chat. I can see the hands sometimes, right? So if I see that you have a question, I'll call out your name, and you can go from there. So last week, all right, so last week we were looking at Nahuatlisms in Salvadorian Spanish. So today's class is very similar to that. And Tamachtiani was actually laughing about this because as we were preparing the materials for this class, he said that I actually have it a little tough for these first 2 workshops because and I think you guys can resonate with this one. So it's the same issue as last week. We were debating whether or not to have this class because it's more designed for Salvadorians, right? And so Salvadorians, they know their country better, they know the geography, they know the name of places. Whereas for someone like myself, I'm a Salvadorian diaspora. So I'm not that familiar with Salvadorian geography or the names, right? So again, but just like last week, we decided to have Nahuatlisms in Salvadoran Spanish because we thought this is going to be really helpful for those of us who are reconnecting either with the Spanish language, Salvadorian roots, or for anyone else around the world who is learning more about Salvadorian and Nawa culture. So that's the reason why we're having this class. As a result, I want to give you guys a disclaimer, okay? In the event that I get something incorrect, the good news is that those of you who are joining us in level 3, we're going to be looking at this topic in more detail. So if I happen to get anything wrong, we can correct it then. Also, because this class will be available on YouTube by the end of this weekend, if there's any details that I get wrong, I'll ask Damachtiani if he can add it as a pinned comment under the YouTube video so that you guys can go back to it and make corrections on some things I may have gotten wrong. Does that sound good for everyone? Good?
Yes.
It's a deal? Perfect. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you. Okay, so for this class, we are going to need the dictionary, right? If you speak Spanish, you can download it at allnawat.com. However, because it's not available in English, I did share with you a cheat sheet, and you can make reference to that one because we're going to do some exercises together, and I am going to need your help with it. Okay. So what is, again, we're going to look at Nawa toponymy. Also, I want to take this opportunity to say that I did go back to Tamachtiani and asked about the Lenca names of El Salvador, right? Because I did mention last week that we are aware that the Lenca community, they don't like it when we say that Guzgatan is the original name of El Salvador because El Salvador also had a name in Lenca and in the other indigenous languages. So I did inquire if we know what those names are. The short answer is we don't know. This is just something that we hear from the Lenca community, right? Like, oh, but it has another name. But what is it, right? So that information has not been shared. However, Lenca is still alive in Honduras. So I am aware that there are some Salvadorians who are reconnecting with their Lenca roots. So they're learning the variant from Honduras. There is one living Lenca speaker, but he's not like fluent like Nansin Six style, he is familiar with the language. But in one of the interviews, which I'll share with you in the WhatsApp group, he doesn't mention the name of El Salvador in Lenca, right? So just keeping you posted that I did touch base with Tamachtiani. But again, these classes are always being updated, right? So maybe in a future class, maybe we'll have that information. And the good news is that because we do record these classes and upload them on YouTube, we are in a way documenting this information for future reference, right? So again, we're looking at Nawa toponymy. So in this screen, you're going to see the 14 departments of El Salvador, right? So in El Salvador, we say departments. In Canada, you would say provinces and territories. In the United States, you would say states, right? So in El Salvador, we say departments. So these are the names, but we're going to find out what they were or are currently. So what is a toponymy? So the term toponymy is etymologically, did I say that right? Etymologically derived from topos, meaning place, and onoma, name. So it comes from Greek. In other words, it means the names of places. Now, one of the things that Tamachiani has mentioned is the majority of the names of places in El Salvador are, again, in Nahuatl, followed by Lenca and Caucaupera. So Caucaupera is another indigenous language. So again, last week we looked at Nahuatlisms in Salvadorian Spanish, and we also mentioned how these words in Nahuatl have gone through the process of Castellanization, because the name of the Spanish language is Castilian, right? Like when you hear the Nahuatl speakers, if you say, how do you say Spanish in Nahuatl? They say Castilla, right? So that's the name of the Spanish language. But for simplicity's sake, we say Español, we say Spanish. So another way of saying is Hispanicization. That's a mouthful. So basically, these Nahuatl words have been seasoned with Spanish flavor to change the sound of it, right? But we can still, the good news is that we can still appreciate the Nawa origin of these words. So many people ask Damachtiani. This is a common question that he receives from new students or anyone who just follows his channel, is they'll ask him, hey, what is the name of my town? Like, what does it mean? Like, what is in Nahuatl? And he'll answer that question with another question. He'll ask them, what is your city or town or village or hamlets, right? Wherever you're from, what is it known for? Like, what is your community known for? And they'll give them an answer. They'll say, oh, my community is known for trees or a certain flower. And chances are that the name of the place that they come from is related to that. Also, some of these places, their names in Nahuatl were changed to Christian names during the colonial period. So an example would be this one here that you see in the screen. So it's Cihuatehuacan, which means it means a sacred place of women. And I'll explain further what that means as we go through the slides. They changed it to another name. So it's related to women, and they changed it to a Christian name related to a female holy figure, and that would be Saint Anne, so Santa Ana. Okay. Again, if you have any questions, please let me know. Don't be shy to interrupt me. I'm just looking at my notes quickly here. So one of the things that Tamachtiani said is, actually, before I forget, just looking at my notes. So I'll explain a little bit about Cihuatehuacan. So Tamachtiani explained that during colonization, indigenous people, in order to protect their women and children, they basically moved them to Cihuatehuacan. Okay, they moved them to that region to protect them from the Spanish and other indigenous groups that were invading the land. Sadly, as we know the history, right? The Nawa people, our tribes, they were basically losing the battle. So when the Spanish arrived to what is now known as Santa Ana, they saw a lot of women, they saw a lot of children, and the impression that they got was, oh, this must be a very revered and holy place related to women. Okay, so for them it's like, okay, say sacred women. So that's where we get the name Siwatewagan. Okay, it's like it's Nawa. And again, it's interesting that when it was Christianized, they chose a holy woman, Santa Ana. Now, one of the things that Tamachtiani says is the beauty of knowing the name of these places and now what is it's like a living record kind of thing that shows that basically highlights the natural beauty of El Salvador. Because as we go through each of these names, we're gonna see what was abundant in that place. So, for example, the department of Usulutan, it comes from two words. So it comes from Uselut, which it's the ocelot feline, and then Tan means land, right? So it's land of ocelots, right? The land of these felines, which means that in that area at one point, those felines were they were in abundance. So that's what made that place remarkable, and that's where it gets its name. So Tamachtiani was saying the other night, he's like, humanity, the human species is like the worst species on earth, right? Because we seem to have challenges in preserving nature, living in harmony with nature, right? And unfortunately, we tend to destroy natural beauty. But again, when you focus on the names of these places, you realize, oh, this was in abundance. This is what was available back then. Let's see. So I'm going to ask you for a favor. If you guys can jot down some of these words, okay? And I think some of them are in the cheat sheet that I provided to you. And these are words that we're gonna come across regularly as we go through each title. So we have tan, okay? There's an L there because in today modern times, sometimes you won't see tan, you'll see tlan, okay, Tlan. Basically, it has two meanings. It means land of, or it means between. So an example would be usulatan, right? So again, that's related to the feline. Another word we have is tenan. So these are suffixes, right? So tenan, it means wall, or it's surrounded by. And Tamachtiani had many theories about this word tenan because we know that it means stepmother, right? When it comes to family. The other thing about these words is that Tamachtiani says, oh, sorry, did somebody have a question? No? No? Okay. One of the theories he has about this word tenan is that it was probably something else, because we obviously know that it cannot mean stepmother, right? So we can't say surrounded by stepmothers. That doesn't make any sense. So that it actually comes from the word wall. But because these names have evolved throughout the centuries, right? Like a P now becomes a letter N and so forth, right? So that's the theory that he has, that it actually means, so Tenancingo would mean surrounded by little walls. And then we have Gu, which means place. And we see this in Xalatenango, for example. We have Apan. It's another word that we see a lot. Now, Apan means river, but when it comes to toponymy, it has a different meaning, and that is abundance. So we have this city called Gumalapan. So it would mean that this place was abundant in clay griddles. That's what it was known for. So it was known for that artisanal stuff, right? Okay. Now, so we're gonna change the topic a little bit, but we are going to circle back to the name of places. There's a reason why we're going to talk about the manuscript of Glasgow. It's all going to make sense, I promise. So no, because sometimes it just seems out of place, right? But trust me on this one, it's going to make sense. So in this picture, in this manuscript, I don't have a way of highlighting here. But on the top right-hand corner, you see the ideogram for Guzgatan, for El Salvador. Let me see if there's a way that I can, let me see here. See if I can, let me try something. I haven't tried this. I'm just trying to see if there's a way that I can, no, I can't. So there's no way that I can do the pointer like the way that Tamachtiani does, where he highlights things. Okay. All right. So does everyone know the ideogram, the drawing for Guzgatan? It's this image on the top right-hand corner. So sorry, just having trouble seeing my screen at the moment. Okay. So it's to the right-hand side of the bird. Can everyone see it? Okay.
Yeah,
So,
we can see your mouse. So
oh, you can. Thank God. Oh my God. What a relief. All right. So this, oh my God. Oh my God. Thank you. No, because the thing is that I know Tamachtiani, he has the markers, he has that option, but I don't. So, okay, now that I know that you can see the mouse, thank you. Okay, so this is an ideogram. So basically, in modern terms, it's the emoji. Okay, it's the emoji that means El Salvador. So the term, the academic term is ideogram. In Egypt, we have hieroglyphs, right? So those are the images, the illustrations from the pyramids, everything related to Egypt. It's their language and so forth. In the Maya culture, the academic term for these illustrations is glyph. In the Nawa culture, the academic term is idiom. Okay. So to this day, El Salvador has two surviving idioms. One of them is this one, which means El Salvador. And the second one that we're going to see later on, it represents the department of Sonsonate. Okay. And the reason we have records of these idioms is because they survived in such documents like the manuscript of Glasgow. Okay. And it's called Glasgow, manuscript of Glasgow, because it is currently in Glasgow. So what you see here is a copy of, and this is the name, Lienzo de Tlaxcala. And this is actually, it was made on European paper and is the work of Diego Muñoz Camargo. So Camargo was a Tlaxcalan historian, and he's actually one of the first descendants of the mixing, right? Of two cultures coming together. So he's born from the union of the Spanish conqueror, Diego Camargo, and an indigenous woman, okay? And he documented all of this. So in this, and Tamachtiani was saying that not all places have their ideograms because we've lost this information, right? So again, the two that we have are from this manuscript. So Camargo basically, he illustrates a lot of the events that took place, and it contradicts. Okay, we're gonna go, because I think we're ready to talk about this. Basically, his illustrations contradicts what the Spanish think of their role in the Americas. So basically, we hear a lot of the times, from the Spanish, they say, oh, no, but it wasn't a conquest. No, it wasn't a war. We went there to civilize you guys and, educate you and make you better. And it was actually an exchange of culture and so forth. Maybe, they say we did not colonize you, you know. Maybe it was in some cases, but it wasn't. And we do have documents, right? Another thing that we have here documented is that the Spanish did not do it alone. Okay, because if we focus a little bit in mathematics, right? They arrived to the Americas, so the Spanish would have been outnumbered. So who helped them to also conquer us? Well, they had allies, and they were the Tlaxcalans and other indigenous groups. Because you have to think about this. How is it that the Spanish can get through the land if they don't know where they're going? What places do they need to avoid? Because some places are dangerous. There's animal predators and whatever, right? So who would know the land? It would be other indigenous groups, right? And how do we know this? Because when you look at this manuscript, right? So here's a Spanish guy, right? But over here is a Tlaxcalan, right? And we see their symbols as well, their representation. And on the right-hand corner here, these are the Nawas of El Salvador, right? And what's interesting is if you look at their garments, the Spanish and the Tlaxcalans, they have shields. I mean, like they have clothes, they have layers of clothing, so they have protection. And look at that Tlaxcalan, he has a sword, right? And we know that a sword is a European weapon, right? Now, when you look at the Nawas of El Salvador, they're using arrows and they're not using protection. I mean, they're just using the what's the word? Mashat. I think that's the word, right? So it's the garment that they use to cover the lower part of their body, right? So they didn't have protection. And you also see them on their knees, and one of them is on the ground, right? Like he's fallen to the ground. So you can see the defeat, right? So again, it's a battle between the Spanish and the Tlaxcalans against the Nahuas, right? Now, this manuscript of Glasgow also illustrates other, and I also want to give a trigger warning because some of these images, I know this is something that happened centuries ago, but I know that it can trigger some people, right? Because you look at this and it's just very sad, right? The other thing again, the manuscript also illustrates the Christianity, right? And again, this is the reason why I say it's a very sensitive topic for some, right? Because some people are very religious. Even the Nawas today, right? Like Nancing Sixta, for example, she's a very religious woman. If I understand correctly, she's a Christian, right? So this can offend some people. So I'm just giving you the heads up on that. Now, so in the manuscript, it also shows how the friars, right? They came to impose their religion and how they punish indigenous people for not converting, or if they converted to Christianity, they were reverting back to their old customs, their old traditions, or what the Christians would call idolatry. Now, here you're going to see the illustration has some written text. So here on the bottom is the text, and it's been translated from Spanish to English, right? So here it says, great justice was carried out upon 5 very important caciques. So caciques is an academic term to mean an indigenous leader, a chief. So caciques of Tlaxcala and a woman, and a lady of that land, because after becoming Christians, they returned to idolatry. And here's another one here. So Franciscans friars burning books, traditional garments, and masks of the gods. So that's what it says on the manuscript. So again, sadly, this shows that it wasn't a peaceful cultural exchange. Unfortunately, there were some events where violence was involved. And these manuscripts, they also help us, because back then, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have newspapers, so this was one way to record history. I'm just going to see what slide I'm on, because, okay, just want to make sure that I'm not missing additional information. Okay, I'm going to go to.
Yeah, that looks like an odd exchange.
Yeah, and I think, like, honestly, I understand, like again, when I started taking these courses with Tamachtiani, I did not know that there were other indigenous groups that created a team with the Spanish, because the way that they teach the story, at least in school, when I was in school in El Salvador, the way they taught the class was, oh, Christopher Columbus discovered America. And the Spanish, and like that, they teach it the way that they would teach it in Canada. To this day, they're still doing that, you know? So they don't tell the whole story.
Oh,
And
in El Salvador, they're
yeah,
teaching it.
yeah,
Okay.
In El Salvador. In El Salvador to this day, they teach it the same way that they're teaching it in Canada, for example, because I also went to school in Canada. I'm not sure about the United States, so anyone in the US or in Australia, you can also share your feedback on how that story was taught to you.
Well, it
Mhm.
depends
Hello,
on.
guys.
Mhm.
It's Gabriela here. I'm in Australia, and but I was born and raised in El Salvador.
Mhm.
And same thing that you just said, Valerie. Like, that's exactly what they taught me. That Christopher Columbus discovered the Americas. He was almost painted as a hero,
Mhm.
ironically. Very rarely do we get to hear some of the other, like the perspective of the indigenous communities. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So it's refreshing to hear that that is part of the education that we are receiving now, just to really understand what was actually happening. And you know, for the sake of moving forward, like it's very difficult to move forward when we don't know the truth.
Mhm.
And look, being in Australia, like the Aborigines are here. They're the First Nations people of this land, and they are also marginalized. You know, the same kind of thing happens here. Although we have moved forward a little bit, where there's a little
Mhm.
bit more truth being revealed in the classrooms, but
Mhm.
still a long way to go. Still a long way to go towards, you know, just being able to connect and help the Indigenous communities with the healing process that needs to happen.
Mhm. And I think Zach also had a point, if I'm correct.
Oh, it kind of depends. In the United States, currently there is quite a lot of reform. So, like, if you're a student now, a young student, they probably are given a little bit more accurate information. Or if you're like a college student in the United States, we get a little bit more accurate information. But even like I'm 31, and when I was younger, in like grade school, there was still some of that kind of outdated myths and some of those misinformation things still shared in schools.
Okay. And thank you both for sharing. Because to this day, I mean, I have relatives in El Salvador who are teachers, and I asked them, "Hey, in the curriculum," well, I didn't say, "Hey," I mean, in the curriculum that you teach, do you do you teach history this way? And she said, "Yeah, yeah, we teach that Christopher Columbus discovered America." And I'm like, oh wow, I was very shocked, right? And but again, this is I think that's what's valuable about our school, right, Nate and Sephora, because we're bringing other documents, right, like another angle to the story. And see, the Spanish, they'll say, oh, it was not a conquest. But if you look at this manuscript to the right, okay, it's in the text right there. If you know how to read Spanish and script, it says here, Conquista de Mexico, conquest of Mexico, right? I mean, if it's a cultural exchange or whatever, you're not going to use the word conquest. Right? Words have meaning. So, and that the meaning of that word has not changed. And the other interesting thing about the Tlaxcalans that I learned is they continued on with their invasion of other lands. And my understanding, and take this with a grain of salt, I think they went all the way to Peru until they met their match, which is the Incas. Okay. So it was actually the Incas that stopped their their victory, because they made it all that way. And that just shows you how powerful the Tlaxcalans were. I mean,
Oh,
they had
I
very
do want to point out a new like I didn't know this either,
Mhm.
but but I had recently learned that the Tlaxcalans,
Mhm.
quite a few actually also accompanied the Spanish when they went to conquer what is now the Philippines.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So
Wow. Okay,
some of them did settle in the Philippines as well. So they got some words from Nahuatl there too, like chocolate, of course.
of course, chocolate.
There's
That
also same for the United States Southwest. There were Tlaxcalan allies with the conquistadors in Arizona. and New Mexico, and there were some Nahuatl speaking communities there that came with the Spanish.
See, and that's why, and again, this is the importance of these classes, right? Because it's our attempt to tell the full story, you know, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Some were heroes, some were not. Some, I think like, I think some of the stories that Tamachtiani shares, you know, you can also see some of the good stuff, the ugly, and the bad.
Mhm.
You know, that's all, just to keep it fair, you
Yeah.
know?
Well,
So,
one of the things we did in college was we read the journals of Christopher Columbus, and then the teacher opened it up for discussion. And it's hard to read the journals because if you see these pictures and these notes and read Christopher Columbus's journals, it kind of becomes clear that he wasn't really that heroic because some of
mhm.
his depictions of women and the way they would treat people was horrific. So it's like just read the journals. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's one of them. So here with the lienzo, so the name lienzo de Tlaxcala, like I cannot translate to English because that's the proper name, like that's the original name. So Damachiani was saying that there were three versions of the lienzo of Tlaxcala. There were three. One of them was lost. I think it's the one. It was the one for King Charles of Spain. That one is lost. The other one was for the seat of the viceroyalty in Mexico City, and the other one remains in Tlaxcala, right? So those are the two surviving copies. So the one that we're going to use today is the version by Chavero. So this is the one on the right-hand side. The other one is by Yanes. Okay. And again, it does have graphic content, you know, like I know it's an illustration, but depending on the mood that you're in, it can be a little disturbing, you know, because it does show, you know, chopped up body parts and, you know, like this actually took place during that time, right? It's yeah. Um, so and so here is the lienzo of Tlaxcala. Okay. So as you zoom in, like this is available on the link right here. And I think it's also available in allnawat.com on Tamachtiani's website, because he does have a lot of educational resources. And because it's the Lienzo of Tlaxcala, this is public information. It's now in public domain, right? So you can download it anywhere. And you can actually zoom in each illustration, and it's telling you the story. It's basically telling you the battles, the things that were done, you know, all of that. Okay. And so as I mentioned, so here are some examples here, right? Like zoomed in. Again, right? You can see the battles. Again, same thing, right? So they are protected. They have um, uh, shields. You know, here they don't, right? Um, in this one, now this, so here's where I'm going to circle back, okay, to the ideograms, because I did say that this made sense. So these illustrations have ideograms. Here's one of them. So this one I think this is the one that's related to Guatemala. Now, Tamachtiani said that he has a theory of the name Guatemala. So in Nahuatl is Guatutut. So he says that his theory of Guatemala is abundance of eagles and not of trees. Because nowadays, if you ask people from Guatemala, oh, what does Guatemala mean? They'll say, oh, it means abundance of trees. But when you look at documents, ancient documents like the Lienzo of Tlaxcala, you see that it has an eagle, like it has the head of an eagle. There's no tree, right? And so Tamachtiani says that more than likely, eagles, when they get old and they're about to die, right, they retire, they spend a lot of time in the trees. So he wonders if because there's an abundance of trees and you see a lot of eagles there, that maybe it's a little bit of both. And he did get into an argument with somebody online because, you know, he'll post questions, he'll post theories, you know, that are open to discussion, you know, but some people, they take it to heart and, you know, like, again, it can trigger some people. So one of the things that we need to keep in mind as we go through the course today, as we go through this class, is the language and the ideograms can say one thing, but the locals, of that community can say something else. As to which one is right, we don't know, right? Because sometimes the language has been well documented that we can argue and say, no, this is what it actually means. But in some instances, we don't have enough documentation or historical records to support anyone's point of view, right? So sometimes we just have to take it with a grain of salt and just remember that we're just talking about theories, just to, as an FYI. So again, going back to the ideogram of gusgatan, it's right here. Again, that's gusgatan. Let's see, I'm just checking here. Just a minute, just checking my notes here. I'm very diligent. That's all. Now, one of the things that now we're going to get into the names. Okay. So as I mentioned, the only original ideogram that belongs to the Nawa people, the two surviving ones that we know so far, are gusgatan, the one that you see here on the screen, and the second one is sonsonate. Moving forward, the other ideograms that you're going to see, we have borrowed those from Mexico. Why? Because, as you know, the Nahuatl language of El Salvador is a sister language of Nahuatl, Mexican. And so a lot of the names that we have for our cities also exist in Mexico. So the ideogram, if it existed in El Salvador, would have been similar. But the reason we're using the Mexican ideograms is just to show you how the ideogram is telling a language. It's visually describing the name of the place. Like the way I would interpret it is like it's the ancient emoji, So here we have gusgatan. So what does it mean? It's composed of two words. So we have gusgat, which means necklace, and then we have tan, which means land of necklaces. Also, you're going to see the information here in Nahuatl, English, and Spanish, because aside from some of you do speak Spanish, it's also to help you out when you are in El Salvador. Because for me personally, when I've recently visited El Salvador, I don't recognize the name of those places because I've only learned them in Nahuatl. So I had the reverse problem, because I'm like, for example, my brother, like, he was saying, oh, we're going to go to such and such place. I'm like, I don't know what that means. And then I'm like, oh, you mean this name? And he's like, what are you talking about? And it's because I only know it in Nahuatl, because again, I didn't live all of my life in El Salvador. So there's a lot of geography that I've yet to learn. So how do you pronounce gusgatan? Here on the bottom screen, I kind of used I don't know, like an English way of saying it, right? So gusgatan. And why is it necklaces? So there are many theories, and I'm going to share Tamachtiani's favorite. He says that the El Salvador at that time had a lot of precious stones. One of them was jade. So precious stones were very common. So he says that the first bead is the representation of one settlement of an indigenous group. And then the second one is another settlement that settled next to it. And then a third one and a fourth one. When you look at the landscape, the horizon of El Salvador is very mountainous. It's got volcanoes, lots of hills. So you see these settlements around the hills. So it's almost like looking at a neck wearing a necklace. Another theory is because we get a lot of earthquakes, when you see the land shake, from above, and you see these settlements shaking, it's like seeing a necklace shake, like when you're running. He's not too sure about that theory, but he thinks the first theory is the one that perhaps makes the most sense. Okay. Again, there are many theories. I was just sharing the one that he likes the most. And so again, this ideogram is not ours. We're borrowing it from Mexico. So here's another one. So we have Coatepeque. So that's what Coatepeque is in Salvadorian Spanish, right? So in Nahuatl is composed of two words, guat, which means serpent, tepet, which means hill. So Guatepet means hill of the serpent. Another thing I want to make note of, the word tepet sometimes is pronounced as tepec because it could be, again, this is a theory. It could be a combination of tepet plus gu because gu means place. He says that if you change the ending, tepec, it can change the meaning a little bit of the place. It's just nuance, right? But it's just something that he wants to share with you, just in case it's just for extra information. Next one here. So we have, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna move my screen a little bit. Okay, so now we have Ilamatepeque. That's in Spanish. And now it is Ilametepet, right? So it's composed of I, right? So I, which is the possessive adjective. It means his, hers, its. Then we have Lamat. Lamat, last week, when we were talking about Nahuatlisms, right? I said to you that some of the translations in English are not set in stone. Alicia and I are constantly updating our documents because some of these words, we're giving you the literal translation, but it's not the natural translation in English. I mean, if we say hill of the old woman, it just sounds, it doesn't sound pleasant because we tend to say old lady. We don't say old woman unless we want to offend her, right? I don't know, maybe I'm wrong here. So I think we prefer to say hill of the old lady, right? Because it just sounds nicer. But the literal translation is hill of the old woman. So in the future, you can let me know which translation you would prefer, literal or natural. Okay. Next one here, we have Tenancingo. In Spanish is Tenancingo. In Nahuatl is Tenancingo. So it's composed of three words. Tenan, right? So little walls. Sin, it means, so we know that sin is a reverence, right? It means something that is sacred, something that's very important. But in toponymy, it has a different meaning. It means bottom. Not bottom as in like you're behind, but it means like something that's low, like beneath, or like just to say that it's below, that it's the bottom of something. And then you have gu, which means place. So place of the little walls. And we're going to see this ideogram with the bottom, and it's going to make more sense. Here is the ideogram that belongs to us, okay? Because I did say we have two surviving ideograms, Musgatan and then Sonsonate. So Sonsonate, this is in Spanish. Now Sonsonate, this place I do know because that's where my family is from. So this one I'm very familiar with. Now, what's interesting is that Tamachiani was saying the other night that this ideogram was part of the coat of arms of Sonsonate until recently. They removed, the municipality of Sonsonate removed this ideogram and replaced it with stars. And again, this just shows the importance of knowing the Nahuatl language, knowing the Nahuatl culture, because can you believe that? That's horrible that they're removing an ancient ideogram and replacing it with stars. So whoever made that decision, and I'm just going out on a limb here, they don't know the meaning of it. They don't understand what they're looking at. So here's what it means. So Tamachiani said, the ideogram, this donut, right, this circle, it's actually a spring of water. And the feather is to represent something that you cannot count. It's countless. Because Sonsonate in Nahuatl is sensunat. And so it's composed of three words, se, which means one, tsunti, which means 100. So it's 100 plus the word at. So in other words, countless waters. And if you have ever visited or have yet to visit Sonsonate, it has a lot of rivers. It's next to the ocean. It's also humid. There's humidity there. So yes, it is countless waters. Here's another ideogram. Again, this one is from Mexico. So we have Sensuntepeque, that's in Spanish, and now it's Sensutepec. So again, composed of three words, se, Tunti, right? So 100, two words. 100 plus tepet, which means hills. So it means countless hills. Then we have Teotepeque, that's in Spanish, and Nahuatl is Tiutepet, composed of two words. Tiut plus tepet, you get Tiutepet, which means sacred hill. Now, the word Tiut has two meanings. It can mean either sacred or it can mean God, depending on the context. But when we say God in certain Nahuatl context, they're not talking about like God. They're talking about something that's like, maybe like a deity, just to keep it in mind, like depending on context, but it has that meaning, sacred or God. Okay, so here's another ideogram. See, so you see the bottom. So this one represents Cuscatancingo. That's in Spanish, and now it is Cuscatancingo. So it's composed of four words: Cuscat, necklace; tan, land of; tin, to mean bottom, low; and then gu, place. So it means place of the little Cuscatlan. So in Spanish, Cuscatan is Cuscatlan. Okay? So here's where the lower body part, here's another meaning of it, the base. Okay, so it's like the foundation, the base of Cuscatlan. And here is where Tamachtiani has a theory that this part, the body part, the lower limbs, that it means base. Because if you look at the modern map, where you see the red outline, that is Cuscatancingo. And you look at the map, it's actually at the base of San Salvador, because in Nahuatl, Cuscatan is also San Salvador. Cuscatan is the name of El Salvador as well as the capital. So Cuscatancingo would be the base of Cuscatan, right? So that's why he says that more than likely, the ideogram of the lower limbs, it's saying that it's at the base. Is that making any sense? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so here we have other meanings, okay? So we have Mexico, place of the navel of the moon. Sorry, I'm just gonna move this a little bit. Something's in the way here. Okay, so Mexico, place of the navel of the moon. Guatemala, again, it could mean land of trees, or Tamachtiani's theory, land of eagles, right? We have Acatenango or Agatenango, place surrounded by reeds. Atitan, between waters. Then we have Chimaltenango, place surrounded by shields. Then we have Titicastenango, place surrounded by Chichicaste. So again, whoops. This, I have a question mark here, because when Alicia and I translate these documents, as I mentioned last week, Salvadorian Spanish is not really well documented on the internet. When you're studying Spanish, you're either going to come across Mexico, right? Because it is the country with the largest Spanish speakers. I mean, we're talking about 150 million. I think that's the current population, if I'm not wrong. Then you have Spain, right? Because that's where the language comes from. So when we Google Salvadorian words, like Salvadorian Spanish into English, they don't exist, or they give us a different meaning that is incorrect. So we're taking a gander here, but again, we're open to your suggestions. If there's anything that we get wrong, or it could be said better, please let us know so that we can update our documents as we go along. So I think, based on the information that I found, Chichicaste means nettle. And I'm putting a question mark there in case it's not correct. Then we have Huehuetenango, place surrounded by drums. Istatan, land of salt. Then we have Xalapan, abundant sand or sandy place. Mazatenango, place surrounded by deer. Quetzaltenango, I mean, come on, this bird is so famous. I mean, look at this. It even has a name, right? So place surrounded by quetzals. And then we have Nicaragua, Niganahuac, where here are the Anahuacs. Anahuacs is another name for a Nahuatl tribe. It's another name. Then we have Umitepet, 2 hills, and then we have Siwatepet, hill of the woman. Okay, so here's where I invite you, please, to bring out your cheat sheet, or if you want to use the dictionary, either one is fine. And we're gonna translate the name of these places, okay? And we're gonna figure out together what they mean. Again, if I get some of them wrong as I'm translating them to Spanish, because the names of these places in Spanish are the same in English. They don't change. Like San Salvador is San Salvador, right? And so forth. So in case I get any of them wrong, I'll ask Damachtiani to add the corrections on a pinned comment on the YouTube video. Okay. So here we go. I'm not sure how I'm going to do this because I can't I can't type, but okay. So does anyone know, actually, you know what? Let me make this smaller. I know it doesn't look pretty, but can everyone still see the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
So, what's the word for due? And by the way, wherever you see where in brackets, anything that you see in brackets it's just to give you a clue of what it could, of the word that you're looking for. So for example, if it says where, it's like playing Jeopardy, right? So where, we're looking for place. So that's, chances are it's probably going to be like think about like, oh, is it is it a river? Is it gu, which means place, right? It's just to kind of help you what it means. Okay. Does anyone know the word for due?
Which.
Okay, perfect. So just let me, okay, yes, it's working. Okay. Abounds, or is abundance. What's the word?
Apan.
Thank you. Okay. So this equals to, okay, so this would be ahwe chapan. Okay. So the Nawa is, oops. So the name of this place is Ahuachapan. In Spanish is Ahuachapan. Ahuachapan. Now, again, you can see how in some of these names, you can see that in some cases, it kept most of its name intact. In other examples, you're going to see that it completely changed. It completely changed. Also, you're going to notice that these some of these names, they're going to follow the rule that Damachtiani says when a noun or a name ends with a T plus a vowel, right? Everyone remembers that rule, right? So if a noun ends with a T and a vowel, or a vowel and a T, when you conjugate that word or you join it with another noun, it's going to lose its T plus vowel or vowel plus T. Does everyone remember that rule?
Yeah.
Okay. That is the rule in general, but you're going to see that in some instances, it doesn't follow the rule. We don't know why. Damachtiani theorizes that it's probably because the Nahuatl, they didn't follow the rule because otherwise the sound of the place wouldn't be as pleasant. And in some instances, they added more letters just to make it flow even better. So, right, go figure. Okay, so what's the word for egg?
Existi.
Thank you. Okay, texisti. And what's the word for hill?
Tepet.
Thank you. Right, so this equals to, and again, this one follows the rule. So texistepet. And sometimes it's with a K. So this one is texistepeque. In Spanish is texistepe. No, texistepeque. I'm gonna have to come back to that one. Okay, now we have okay, what about baby corn? So we have place, baby corn, abound. I'm looking for 3 words.
Shilut.
Okay.
Gu.
Okay, so we have shilut, we have gu, and we're missing abound.
Apan.
Thank you. So this equals to Tapango. And today it's known because remember the Spanish, you know, they couldn't pronounce sh, right? But it really changed this today. It's Ilopango, right? So a place where baby corns abound. So the next one is, so I'm looking for place, I'm looking for shields, and I'm looking for banner. What's place?
Can I
Gu.
ask a quick question on the baby corn?
Yes. Yes, you can.
Isn't so like when you have Chinese food, sometimes there's like what my family calls the baby corn, but I don't think this is the same baby corn that they're referencing. Is there a like tinier, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Okay.
So the I'm gonna answer this, but you can check with Tamachtiani on Friday just in case I get it wrong. Shilut is referring to the baby corn when it's still in the plant. You know, when it has the yellow, oh my God, what's it called? The tusks. I call it
The
the corn
silk?
care. Yeah, yeah. So it's still a baby. Like it hasn't.
Okay.
Yeah, because every time Tamachtiani mentions Shilut and he shows an image of it, because he uses a lot of pictures, right? He shows the corn still growing and it has that yellow, like that's where we get the name for blonde hair. Like, does everyone remember that picture of the baby corn?
Now I do. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what it means. And the thing is that corn has different names in Nawa depending on the stage. So when it's a baby, when it's taken from the plant, but it's still covered in leaves, then it has another name when it's when you have peeled the leaves. So there's different stages to corn. But if I get this correctly, is when it's still in the leaves, still a baby.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome. So place. What's the word for place?
Gu.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So shields. What's shields?
Jimat.
Mm-hmm. And what about banners? Or was it banners? No, it's flags. Sorry, flags.
Panty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know it sounds weird because in English it means something else, right? So so this actually is okay. Let's see. So again, it's going to lose the TI. Chimalgu. So and now it is
Malco.
panchimalgu. Oh, what is it? What is it, Charles, in Spanish?
Panchimalco.
Correct. Panchimalco. This is a very popular place. This one I do recognize. I'm sorry for my inappropriate comment. I'm sorry. Okay.
No, it's funny. It's right there.
Okay. No, because you guys were very quiet and I'm like, whoa, okay.
Oh,
No,
I was
it was
laughing.
funny.
I was laughing. I was muted though.
Okay, okay. All right. So next one, place. How do we say place?
Who?
Goo.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And how do we say palm trees?
Well,
Suyat.
Oh, somebody got it. Yep. Suyat. And how do we say abound? So it's in abundance.
Apan.
Pan.
Mm-hmm. Correct, right? So, and now what? This would be suya. Again, it's going to drop the T, right? And because apan, see, if you take out the T and then you take out the A, suyapan, right? Because we have to drop the T and the vowel. Okay. Suyapango. Does anyone know this one? So, and now what is suyapango? What's in Spanish? Does anyone know?
Zipango?
Correct. Soyapango. Okay. See, so when you guys go to El Salvador, you're going to know these names, including myself. Okay. So let's go with this one. Again, how do we say a place,
Gu.
right? How do we say grinding stones?
Metat.
Correct. Abound,
Apan.
Apan.
right? So as you notice, apan is used a lot, right? Because again, it's what's in abundance. So this one is me. Again, we're gonna lose the T, right? The vowel, like the regular rules. So metapan. To this day, this one actually is the same name. So me tapan, pronounced the same way in Spanish, pronounced the same way in Nahuatl. So this one kept its name. Okay, where? So we know that, right? Gu is place. Clay griddles. How do we say clay griddles?
Guma.
Correct. Abound.
Apan.
Correct. So this gives us gumalapan. Gumalapan. So in Spanish is comalapa. I'm just gonna share something. So the one thing, I don't know why it lost the first gu, right? But again, like Tamachtiani was saying, some things make sense, some things don't, right? Now, Comalapa used to be the name of the airport in San Salvador. Comalapa. But it changed it changed its name to someone famous, it's Monsignor Oscar Romero.
Yeah.
Yeah, but to this day, people will call the airport, oh, the Comalapa Airport, you know? So just a little trivia there. Okay, so this one here, sorry, how do we say wind in Nahuatl?
Eheget.
Yeah, I like this one. Ehega, like it's one of my favorites. Abound.
Apan.
So this one in Nahuatl is apan. See, so here, because we have an N and a vowel, we're going to add an H, the letter H, right? To make it sound pleasant. Apanekat. I had trouble with the nasal sound. So does anyone know this one in Spanish by any chance? No? So it's
Apaneca?
correct. Apaneca. This one here, how do we say armadillo in Nahuatl?
Ayutuch.
Ayutuch. And the other thing about this animal, Tamachiani was saying that this animal has different names in El Salvador because it's a well-known animal, so it has different names. But in Nahuatl is Ayutuch. Okay, so hill. How do we say hill?
Tepe.
Thank you. Okay, so we have Ayutuch. I think this one is, my apologies there. Ayutuch tepet. This one, let me see, do I have it in? Okay, I don't have this one in Spanish. I'm gonna have to come back to this one. This one, I think we know this one. How do we say jade in Nahuatl?
Chalchihuit.
Chalchihuit. Whoop, there we go. Chalchihuit. And how do we say abound?
Apan.
Correct. So this one is in Nahuatl is chalchihuapan. Yeah, I got the spelling right. Does anyone know this one in Spanish? If it's chalchuapa. Yep, that's the one, chalchuapa. Okay, this one, how do we say women? How do we say women? Or woman, sorry. So see what? And how do we say land? Lamb?
Oh, tan.
So we have siwata. And siwata. Okay, this one.
Not really changed, just spelled different.
Yeah, this one, I can't remember what it is in Spanish. When Tamachiani uploads the Spanish version on the weekend, I'll visit it. Again, I'll give him the translation so that he can pin it in the comment. This one here, I want to make a note of it. This word pava, I thought it was a female turkey because in Spanish, turkey is pavo, okay? No, it's not a female turkey. It's in Spanish, that's how they say pheasant, that animal. Because in El Salvador, we do have pheasants. We do have a species of pheasant that is indigenous to the Americas. And this is the reason why we have a name for it in Nahuatl. So how do we say pheasant in that one?
Gushul.
Correct. Okay. So hill, how do we say hill?
Tepe.
Thank you. Let's see. So, let me see. Cuchultepec. I know this one in Spanish. Cojutepeque. That's what it is. Cojutepeque. So it's the hill of the pheasant. Again, I owe you the Nahuatl version. My apologies. Okay, this one. Everyone's gonna know this one. How do we say thorns?
Mitzi.
And how do we say abound?
Apan.
Okay. Does anyone know what this one is?
Huitzapan.
Correct. So Huitzapan. So in Spanish is Santo Domingo,
Domingo.
de Guzman. Right? Okay. So next one we have, how do we say river snails?
Shuti.
Correct. And how do we say abound?
Apan.
Thank you. Okay, so we have Schwapan. I'm gonna come back to this one because I'm too nervous to. The thing is, I attended the class and I was writing everything down, but I noticed I missed some of them. You know, so again, I owe you this one. It's like, okay, so next one, land of the corn cob, warm. Okay, so we're talking about corn cob. So I need lamb, I need corn cob, and I need warm.
Tan.
So that's lamb. How do we say? So for this one, it's ulut. Okay, I'll explain the difference because elut, it's when it's the leaves. So you know when you what is it? You tear it from the fields, and it has some of the leaves.
Husk.
And then, yeah, thank you. And then ulut is when it's completely peeled, because that was the picture that that I saw that Tamachtiani use. But it is part of the like, it is a corn cob. Okay. And again, I mean, on Friday we can ask Tamachtiani for clarification, because I thought it would have been elut as well. You know, so just let's bookmark this one just to clarify with him. Now, how do we say warm?
Willing.
Thank you. Okay, so this is ulut. Let's see. Uluquiling. It's a mouthful. And this one really changed because in Spanish it's oloquili. Oloquili. It's like, again, I'm going to come back to this one. Okay, tonight is not my shining moment, you guys. This one.
We're all learning. No, it's good.
It's like, no, it's just that I try to write everything down as fast as I can. Okay, so this one here, the word sisimico, there's no translation for it in English because it's actually talking about, not to spook you, but this is a figure that we are going to talk about either next week or the following week. We are going to talk about deities, entities, supernatural. We are going to talk about that in the next coming weeks. So Tzitzimit, it's actually the deity of fear, So there's no translation for it in English, but in Spanish it's Sisimico. Okay. So how would we say, how would we say place?
Ogu.
And how do we say Sisimico? Oh, I think I gave that away. Sorry. Tzitzimit.
Tzitzimti.
So, so this becomes, Tzitzimigu in Nahuatl. And yeah, the Tamachtiani is going to talk about this one, or it's either going to be Alicia or myself, but this one is, before I forget, so in case they don't mention it in the class, So this place in El Salvador, because again, it's related to the deity of fear. That place, I think there's like a hill or some kind of ravine, something like that, but it's not a place that you should be going because it's not, we're talking about the land. It's not safe, you know. It's like going to a hill and you get to the edge of it, you're going to fall, right? You can hurt yourself or die. So it's basically a place like that. To this day, they have found skeletons of animals, very mysterious things. Legend has it that the tzitzimit, right, this entity of fear, kidnaps living creatures. So it can be humans, it can be animals, and takes them to this hill because that's where he eats them. Okay, so it's a very spooky figure, actually.
The
Okay.
call of the void.
Yeah, there we go. That could be the actually, you know what? The tzitzimit, the way that it's described, I'm getting off topic here, but it's shadow people. It's also the man in the hat. So based on the description, if we want to give it a translation in English, it's referring to the man in a hat and shadow people. Have any of you heard that before, those terms? No? Okay. Let's go on to the next one, some happy topics. So how do we say owls in Nahuatl?
Back
Tegulu?
Tegulu.
And how do we say grass?
Zagat.
Thank
Saga.
you. Thank you. And how do we say where? Did I write that down? No, right? Gun. Okay. So this would be in Nahuatl, sagat. It's going to lose the extra T there. Oops, I added an extra T, extra E. Sagategulugan. So in Spanish, it would be Zacatecoluca. This one I know. So in Nahuatl, it's Sagategulugan. In Spanish, it's Zacatecoluca. And I want to make an observation about this word here, sagat. When I was growing up in El Salvador, because in Spanish, to say grass is grama. But I used to say sacate, because that's a Nahuatlism, okay, sacate. And I remember an adult saying to me, oh, you're uneducated. And I'm like, why? Because you're saying sacate. It's not sacate, it's grama. Well, again, see, this is the importance of knowing Nahuatl or being familiar with the Nahuatl culture, because had I known, I could have said to that person, no, it's Nahuatl actually. So be quiet. Anyway, so, so here we have, this one is really pretty. So again, this is related to the ideogram that we saw, sonsonate, right? Oh, I already gave you the answer. So sonsonate means countless waters. So let's break it down. So we have sen, right? We have sunti, which means 100. Then we have at, right? But see, this is the one where we see that it doesn't really follow the rules, and it actually has they added more words to it. So we have sen, for example, the letter N, they added it there. We don't know why. It's probably just for aesthetic reasons. Sensunat, right? Sensunat, countless waters. I think the next one, you guys might be familiar with it. So again, how do we say place?
Gu.
Thank you. And how do we say surrounded by? Whoops. Okay, how do we say water?
At.
Thank you. And how do we say, what am I missing? Sand. How do we say sand?
Shal.
Correct. So this one in Nahuatl is Xalatenango. Is anyone familiar with this one in Spanish?
Chalatenango.
Chalatenango.
Correct. Chalatenango. Oh,
Isn't that the name of the rum as well? Or is that no, that's a different one. Never mind.
oh, were you thinking of cola champagne? No. Probably.
No, there's a rum that's you see the labels all over in El Salvador, and it's kind of a nice rum, and I don't think it's Chalatenango though.
You
It'll
know
come
what?
to
Now
me.
that I mentioned the soft drink, free advertisement, cola champan. Like I wonder if there's Nawa influence or if it's just coincidence. Just just a thought. Okay,
I bet it is Nawa.
right. I'm just putting it out there. I'm not, I'm not putting out conspiracy theories here. So, place. Let's look at place of obsidian sands. I think this one you guys will know as well. Place.
Gu.
Gu.
Thank you. And how do we say sands?
Itsti.
Did I?
Well, shall for sands.
It's that one is obsidian. Obsidian. So itsti, that's obsidian, and sands or sand.
Shall.
So this one, and now what? It's shalco. Does it look familiar?
Izalco.
Correct. Yeah, Izalco. Okay, let's see here. So I think this one we did already look at it. So this one is Tenancingo, right? We looked at it when we were looking at the ideogram. So we're going to move to the next one. Again, how do we say water? Oh, I answered it my own. Okay, what's the verb lost? Like, what's the verb? To lose. Did I add that there? No, I didn't add it. Looks like I didn't. My apologies. So pulua is the verb when something disappears. So the name of this place is Apulu. Basically what it means is there's water there, but it disappears. Like maybe there's, I'm not familiar with, geographically speaking, I've never been to this place, so I can't describe it, but I think Damachtiani has, because he said there's water, but it disappears. Like, I don't know what they mean by that. Like, does it turn into something else, or it's just absorbed by the ground? I'm not sure, but where the water is, water disappears. This one's gonna be easy. So how do we say quetzal in that one?
Quetzal.
And how do we say hill?
Tepe.
So this one is Quetzaltepetl. And I think in Spanish is Quetzaltepec. Okay. This one, oh, it's not working. So how do we say sacred? How do we say sacred in Nahuatl? Thank you. I was just double checking. I was like, did I not add that there? Okay. What about river?
Kapan.
Did I not put? Oh, yeah, there we go. So this one is Kiapan. I had it here. This one in Nahuatl is Apantiut. Okay. This one, I think this one, some of you might know it in Spanish. I did not. So how do we say fish in Nahuatl?
Michin.
And how do we say abound?
Apan.
So this one is Michanapa. Let me see. And I think the name is similar to it in Spanish. Okay. We already looked at this one. Then that's a repeat. Okay, this one here. Okay, how do we say flower?
Shushit.
Thank you. Right, so we got shuchit. Now, how do we say bird?
Tutut.
Whoops. And how do we say place?
Ooh.
So this becomes shuchitutuk. Okay. This one, how do we say ash?
Neshi.
Thank you. And think it's Neshti. Did I type it wrong? My apologies.
yeah.
That's my mistake.
Nishti,
That's my
yeah.
mistake. It's Neshti. I wrote Neshi. I'm sorry. How do we say abound?
Apa.
Thank you. So this one in Nahuatl is neshapan, and in Spanish is nehapan. See, again, because the Spanish didn't know how to say sh, right? So it changed it to a J, nehapan, right? Land of, I think we did this one already. Okay, in this one, I think this one, with the warm, it's a repeat. Okay, how do we say? Did I write this down?
I don't know if we can do it, but I have a question for one that's not on here.
Sure.
So the reason I'm around is my dad was in the Peace Corps, and where he served was Tonacatepeke, and I always wondered what it meant. Do we have enough information to figure that out?
It's on the next slide, actually.
Oh,
Yeah, it's on the,
wow.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's coming up. This
Okay.
one, I don't know what I did with this one, countless grasslands. I owe you this one. I think I missed it when I was jotting it down. It's actually the second one, but before we get there, let's do this one. So how do we say, no, I think we did this one too, right? Where the Tegulucan. Yeah, we did this one. Sorry, some of these are repeat. Okay, let's go to yours, Charles. So how do we say hill in Nahuatl?
Tepe.
How do we say our? It's a possessive pronoun, our.
Tu.
Correct. How do we say flesh?
Nagat.
Correct. So in Nahuatl it's tunagatepet. There we go. Tunagatepet. So tunagatepet, it means hill of our flesh. That's what it means. As to why flesh, I didn't catch it in the classroom because the thing is, when I attend these classes in Spanish, the majority, well, if not all, are Salvadorians. And so they know the geography, they know the history. So sometimes they won't go into details, right? And they won't ask questions that we, the diaspora or anyone else would ask, right? So jot down the question and ask them on Friday. But that's what it means, hill of our flesh. But whose flesh are they talking about? I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because the other thing about flesh, in case we have new students, flesh is the same word that we use for the meat that we eat, right? So if you eat animals, for example, right? So beef, chicken, you use the same, like you have to indicate whose flesh are you talking about, because if you don't indicate, then are we talking about a human being, right? So what are we talking about? Okay, so that sounded weird. Place, how do we say place in Nahuatl?
Goo.
How do we say macaws? Macaws, sorry.
Tagalog.
Guacamaya, but that's Spanish.
Sorry? Yeah, in Spanish is guacamaya. And so in Nahuatl is galugo. So Tamachtiani says he doesn't know why, because you see gagalud, right? Like he doesn't know why it lost the first ga. It might have been done for aesthetic reasons because it sounds prettier that way. You know, so some of these things don't make sense to us as to why, but that's the language. So the next one, we're looking at the land of cane snails. This is particular snails. So how do we say snails?
Chuti.
And whoops, there we go. Plus sign. How do we say land?
Tepan, or is it Tenan?
Oh, you're close. Tan.
Ta.
And then let's see, this one reads. I think it's the word is read in English. So it's R-E-E-D. What's in that one?
Agat.
Mhm. So again, with that word read, it was one of the words that I had trouble finding in English. So maybe read is not the right word, right? So just put a little question mark there for future if you come across a better translation, because I did ask about this one for more information, and we can't seem to find so it might be read. Okay, so in Nahuatl, this is agashuptan. And it's acajutla. Like this one really changed. Okay. River. Okay, so this one. I want to make a note of this word, amate, A-M-A-T-E. When I looked up the translation, actually, you're going to see it now. How do we say in Nahuatl? Because I believe I did add it to the cheat sheet there. How do we say in Nahuatl, ficus insipida? It's the scientific name. So it's F-I, yeah. So when I was looking for the translation for this word in English, I got Australia. So apparently, so I don't know, Gabriela, maybe you can help me out here. So apparently there's a tree in Australia with a sign with like it's I don't know how you would pronounce it.
Oh, she left.
Oh, she left? Okay.
Yeah.
So so in Australia, apparently there's a tree with that name, but it's a different tree. It's not the tree that we have in El Salvador. So I don't know I don't know its name in English. I only found its scientific name, Ficus insipida. Okay. So with so how do we say lost or the verb? Oh no, actually that one I didn't write it down on the cheat sheet. But how do we say abound? River. Sorry, how do we say river? Yeah, apan. So this one equals. Okay. It's the name. Oh, this is the last one. So how do we say did we look at this one? Okay, how do we say home? How do we say home?
Gal.
The other one.
Chan?
So we know that because it's chan, it's going to need a possessive adjective. So for this one, we're going to use I, right? So, and how do we say fish?
Michin.
So we have Ichan Michin. Okay, house of the fish. Okay. How do we say water? Now what?
At.
How do we say pace?
Pashti.
Pasti.
And how do we say hill?
Tepe.
Tepe.
Thank you. And this is another one that Tamachtiani said. It doesn't lose the T and the vowel, and we don't know why. Apashtitepet. We don't know why. This is another word I'm having difficulty translating. I was talking to Alicia about it. Perhaps you guys can help me out. So there's a word here. I noticed that I didn't add it to the our cheat sheet there. It's teguyu. Didn't spell it right? Teguyu. Again. Teguyu. So I don't know. We don't know how else to translate it because maybe because I'm in Canada, we tend not to use the word sir or lord because as a Commonwealth country, we're linked to the British monarchy, and those are terms, honorific terms that they use when royalty give them to you or you inherit it by birth, right? But I know that in English, if you call someone sir, it's polite, right? Same in Canada, like you can call someone sir, but teguyu, Tamachtiani was saying, because I was asking him, is there another way to say it? Because in one of the stories, especially about the Taquatzin, right? When he goes up to the hill and the teguyu is the figure, is like the owner of the hill. So he said that teguyu can be loosely translated as owner, right? A male, so it's a man, owner. It can be translated as Mr. It can also be translated as father because he's the father of this hill, like he owns it or something like that. So that's why I put here Mr. because I didn't want to say Lord of the Waters because I'm associating it with honorific titles, but I don't know if that would work with American English, right? So if you don't have to give me an answer tonight, but maybe down the road you can help us come up with another way to translate teguyu in English. Okay? So we have teguyu. How do we say waters or water?
At.
Mhm. And this is another word I did not like the hot springs. How do we say hot springs in Nawa?
Oh, Apsul. Apsul.
Correct. So this word in apsul in Spanish is ausoles, and I could not find the translation in English because hot springs in Spanish, like popular Spanish, is said differently. But in Salvadorian Spanish, because it's based on Nahuatl, right, it's ausoles. So basically, it means owner of the waters and hot springs. So it would be ate guap. Let me write it down. Atehuapsal, father of the water. In Spanish, it is Atecosol. Atecosol. That name I have heard it before. Atecosol. Again, owner or father of the hot springs and waters. How do we say water?
At.
And how do we say thorn?
Witsi.
See, so witsti. So in Nahuatl, this turns to witzat. In Spanish is wija. I'm not sure of the spelling, but in Spanish is wija. Okay. Land. How do we say? Whoops. How do we say land in Nahuatl?
Ran.
And how do we say leaves or leaf?
Iswa.
So now we have iswatan. And I don't have the version in Spanish. And this is the reason why when I go back to El Salvador, I know the names in Nahuatl, but not in Spanish. Like I don't always recognize them. And unfortunately, I'm doing the same thing to you. But when this class is uploaded on the weekend, I'm going to go back and get the Spanish translations and the spelling of them. And I'll ask Damachtiani to, what's the word I'm looking for? To pin it in comment. So that's the class for today. Are there any questions? Sorry, I missed all the messages here. I didn't read them. Sorry.
It's okay.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So we'll see you guys on Friday and enjoy tomorrow's workshop with Alicia.
Oh, also, I was just going to mention, Zach put in the chat, one of the towns that actually my grandma is from, on my dad's side is Tepecoyo, and it's supposedly a Nawa town, and they still have some information on like Wikipedia that kind of says that like it's Tepe and Guyu, and that it might mean something along the lines of like, I can't remember what he says. He put it in the chat, but it's like koyo trees or something like that. It could mean the hill of koyo trees or a path along the way of koyo trees. But it'd be interesting to see if maybe the Nansins or Tatsins know anything about Tepecoyo.
Yeah, because this one I don't have it on the list, but I also wonder if it's related to the coyotes because it's the same spelling like guyut, right?
I'm curious about that. They kind of say that that might be a misinterpretation, but kind of like what you were saying before about for the images for Sansanat, they sort of had
Mhm.
associated the coyote with it and now have de-associated it with the coyote
Mhm.
because they think of this more modern association with palm trees, I think. So I'm very curious on like, does it really mean coyote? And if so, then they've done the same thing with the symbology for Sansanet and they've removed the Nawa interpretation. And if that's the case, then we should really correct that, in that case. So I'm very curious on like, does it mean palm trees or does it mean coyote in that sense?
Yeah, because we do have coyotes. Like again, if we have the word in Nahuatl, it's because we have seen it. Like it's from our lands, right?
Hmm.
But because this one is not on the list, write it down because you guys have asked really good questions in the past, and it also has helped us to discover more information about the Nahuatl language. So write this one down. Ask Damachtiani on Friday and see what he says. Because again, he says we have to use a little bit of academia, but we also have to use the oral history of that community to find out the true meaning of the name of the
Absolutely.
book, right? Excellent
Right.
question.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
No, thank you
Bayush.
guys. Okay, Nyawa, Payush.
Yeah, Bayush.
Yes, Yawa.